It occurred to me recently that aside from the traditional walking in the air scene that's often played at Christmas on various different adverts, I couldn't really visualize any of the scenes in The Snowman. This is, of course, the 1982 short directed by Dianne Jackson and Jimmy T. Murakami, based on the book by Raymond Briggs. And this is, of course, tremendously classic. This is probably the one animation that everybody pictures around Christmas time. Certainly, if you grew up in the UK, I'm not sure what the reception is like elsewhere, but in the UK, this is on at Christmas time every year. Adverts use variations of it. It's just one of the most popular things ever. And interestingly, it was nominated for an Oscar, but it didn't win. And while I'm rambling about this, I'm going to try and find out what actually did win, because I'd be curious to see if that is also still popular. But as I said, I realised I couldn't really visualise any of it, so I hadn't seen it all the way through in a very long time. So I decided to sit down and watch it, and it's a lot more detailed than I thought. And really a lot more, I guess, I not necessarily as good as I remembered. I feel like there are elements of this that were maybe not as brilliant as I could recall from having seen it as a child. So rewatching it wasn't a bad idea, but at the same time, I think like I would have been better off remembering it fondly. Because I'll be honest, the one thing that I think doesn't work for me is how unrealistic it is that the snowman was able to spend time indoors without melting. But then what happens with the final scene? I can't really explain more than that, but it's when the little boy wakes up in the morning and what happens. That would have happened sooner, and I feel like it was quite unrealistic. And I know that that's nitpicking, but if you're going to make the emotional aspect revolve around that, you kind of have to make it a little bit more consistent. But of course, for young children watching it, it is breathtakingly beautiful. And the quality of the animation itself is just so stunning. It's soft, it's delicate, it's charming. So, really, visually, it's an absolute delight. But, for me as a writer, if I wrote this as a short story, it would come back from an editor or a publisher full of red pens saying the ending doesn't make sense with the rest of the narrative. So, from a writer's perspective, I kind of can't think of it as being perfect. But at the same time, visually, it is absolutely stunning. Also, for reference, the best short film animated winner was a film called Tango, which was not a film that I have heard of, and I'm very, very keen to actually check this out. I think I will make an effort to find that because I want to know why it won over The Snowman. Just looking at the poster on IMDb doesn't look very good, but we'll see. The Snowman, of course, is about a young boy who builds this snowman, and this snowman comes to life, and he takes him off to meet these other snowmen. And I love that scene. The scene where we have the snowman in the kilt and the snowmen wearing different costumes. I absolutely adore it. They've got the party hats on, and they're having a really great, merry time. And I really love it. And there's this idea that the snowman and the boy can be best friends, but at the same time, the snowman needs to be with people of his own kind. And I think that that's beautiful. And it's so heartfelt and heartwarming and just absolutely sensational. It's really, really beautiful. Something that I did notice with the animation, his nose. It's not a carrot. In my head, it always was. So that's something that definitely stood out to me as being, things you remember in your head from when you were younger, and then you actually see it again, and it's not quite the same thing. And that's certainly what we get here, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The bits that I didn't remember, for example, the details within the scene of the other snowmen, I just thought was stunning. And something that I find really unnerving, but not through any fault of its own, it's just the snowman has legs. And I don't know why I find that unnerving. And it makes sense that he has legs with the animation and the movements, because if he didn't have legs, he would just be kind of blobbing along, I guess. He actually looks great with legs, and I think it's very well animated. It's beautifully done. It's an absolutely stunning short that I haven't seen Tango, but I feel like it should have won the Oscar. It's become so iconic, certainly within British culture around Christmas time, that I think we'd be a little bit lost if this was suddenly, for some reason, taken off air. We found out that the Snowman had been up to no good in the 80s or something, and we weren't allowed to show it anymore. I think there'd be a massive hole in our hearts. It's beautiful. Obviously, the song as well. We're walking in the air. It's absolutely stunning. It's just so gorgeous, and it will melt your heart. It will melt a snowman. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't think the narrative structure, well, the structure itself is fine. I don't think that certain aspects of the narrative make sense with what happens at the end, and I think that kind of, for me as a writer, causes problems. But when I was younger, absolutely not the case. If I try not to overanalyze it from a writer's perspective, then of course it's absolutely stunning. I'm not going to say it's bad, because it's not. It's gorgeous, it's soft, it's delicate, it's the epitome of Christmas. It's absolutely stunning.